I like to think of the outcome-based grazing program as sort of a choose-your-own-adventure in the rangeland permitting world. We're grazing towards an outcome as opposed to grazing towards a prescription. And so we collaboratively build our definition of what that outcome is.
Whenever we're locked into a very specific grazing regime, it becomes very difficult to get creative or to try something new. Many times in trying new things is where you find the solution that truly works for the land, for the vegetation that's there. I'm Chris Jasmine. I'm the manager of biodiversity and rangelands for Nevada Gold Mines. On the ranches that Nevada Gold Mines operates, we really are in the kind of heart of the Great Basin of Nevada. These are landscapes that are dominated by sagebrush, but they're also landscapes that have been affected very heavily by fires over the last 30 years. And so we're really a mixture of still intact sagebrush habitat mixed with areas that have also been invaded by annual grasses and annual forbs.
This area is dominated by a lot of cheatgrass. That fire interval, return interval is fast enough that it comes in, brush cannot establish, and cheatgrass loves that.
I always look at it as we're stuck right now in an annual dominated community. We're really just trying to shift those into a perennially dominated community for the benefit of cattle, but also for the benefit of wildlife as well.
We have too much fire on this landscape. The Elko district has burned around 4 million acres in the last 30 years, and we're just trying to break that cheatgrass fire cycle.
This project has opened up our grazing dates to allow greater flexibility. It's objective-based. The rancher has the flexibility to make those on-the-ground decisions without, calling for approval every time.
That flexibility piece really gives us the ability then to manage cattle around restoration activities that we're doing on our farms and ranches. Without that flexibility, we're just stuck. We're stuck doing the same thing year in, year out.
The old days, they were turning out when grass wasn't ready. But this allows them to have that flexibility to adjust for the ecological condition on the ground.
We have some flexibilities to adapt to the environment and to what's going on.
Having some flexibility to change things, to work around a restoration project, to change because of fire, to change because of drought, becomes very important.
Currently, the strategy we're trying out here on the ranch is like a three-phased approach, where the ranch is putting livestock into a pasture and hitting it a little more harder than they would, but these are annual dominated communities, and they're not really impacting perennial grasses. Similar to mechanical treatments, livestock are removing fuel from the landscape, with their mouths instead of with a mower. What that does is it removes that thatch layer and biomass from the landscape in preparation for our herbicide treatment that prevents cheatgrass from germinating. Once that herbicide is applied, typically in the fall, we're going to fallow that particular pasture for about 1 year. In the following fall, we're going to come in and drill seed the area with the appropriate seed mix of desirable species.
That's where my passion is in those restoration type projects, and being in the outcome-based grazing allows us to do that without having to severely cut cattle numbers, and allows us to be able to change grazing and move around those treatments as they're becoming established. That's really important for what we want to accomplish here.
Working with the ranchers for this type of project, it takes a lot of coordination. The idea behind it is working together. It's just a collaborative process.
The trust and relationships are important with working with the ranchers, especially on this allotment where most of the land is checkerboarded. So we have private and BLM integrated together within these pastures.
It can make it challenging sometimes, and that's one of the things that I think outcome-based grazing helps with is the private land have to be managed and have to fit into that overall grazing rotation. There's a lot of benefits from a landscape scale restoration standpoint because you don't end up with just these chunks of land that are seeded and not seeded, seeded and not seeded. You can really open it up and do a lot more work in a shorter period of time. Anytime you're modifying your grazing permit, there's going to be some pain points. I mean, it's not an easy lift to go through that process. That being said, many ranchers see better ways to do things or have ideas of ways that they can improve their ranches, improve their rangelands. And I think outcome-based grazing has given some of us an opportunity to do that.